on the call and in person. All right, we are off to the races. Welcome to the AI Salon, everybody. I know we had a lot of RSVPs, so probably some other people joining, but we have some folks there in Denver. I'm dialing in from scenic New Jersey. We've got Leah, co-host extraordinaire from Beantown. Hi, Leah.
Yep. Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. A lot happening, but I'm very, very good. Exciting week. Some pretty good insights around starting to feel like AI has been over here and photographer is over here. And I think I'm starting to see a path to start to integrate them together and go forward. So it's been very exciting.
Oh, that's cool. What was the big insight?
The big insight was that one of the things I do a lot of with clients is image library work. So a client will have me come on location, spend a day at the company telling the story or their institution or their organization. And then those files
they'll tell you the story?
I will tell them their story with photography.
Oh, cool.
So I will tell photo stories. I'll spend a day or two with the organization making pictures, and then they have an image library to use for all kinds of things. And I figured out this week that what I can start doing is amplifying that library and adding to it after we've made pictures in person, so the images can still feel like mine. They can still tell the same story, but we continue to make images from that initial seed library.
They can continue to make images using Midjourney or some tool like that?
That's right.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I'm excited to start seeing the pieces start to come together and sort of figure out what that's going to look like. But
so you still end up being the curator and the aesthetic designer, right?
Completely. But just instead of doing it in person from where I would go to the company, I can start putting it together using AI and the images I've already made.
Yeah. It's funny. I like it, like that integration. I had a very similar experience this week where, for the past, I don't know, probably since we've started this, I have similarly had AI kind of off to the side, and I had, Storyvine, my company, over here, and I've been racking my brain to figure out, how do I make them one, right? And probably 3 weeks ago, I kind of got it conceptually, and 2 weeks ago, I figured out a way to present that visually, and I presented it to a couple of people, and last week I presented it to this guy at this big pharma company, and he liked it so much, he's like, why don't you get on a plane and come out and meet me? Like, I want to know what your company is. I want to know what you do. I want to know who you are and who your co-founder is, and let's do that in person. And it felt it didn't feel disjointed anymore. What I got a sense of is, I kind of have a feeling of what the new version of Storyvine is. That's this AI-powered thing. Even though it's not built yet, I've at least got it kind of integrated conceptually, and it feels very different. I said this to you before we got on the call, that I feel like I didn't do anything in AI this past week because I didn't do anything off to the side. But I did lots with AI, but it was fully integrated into what I was doing. So that very much resonates with what I'm up to.
And when I made the transition from film photography to digital, it felt very similar, right? Like I was shooting film, but then digital was kind of over here, and I was kind of playing with digital cameras, but I was really shooting film. And then I remember when I got a digital back from my Hasselblad, which is a medium format film camera, but it was a digital back. It was 2005. I put it on, and all of a sudden, it all started to come together. But it took 2 or 3 years of having them completely separate until it integrated, and then I understood it. And then I got it. I feel like that's starting to happen. I think I still need to build it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, great. That's awesome.
What happened this week?
Yeah. So if you're new to the salon, this is the AI Salon. We like to talk about AI stuff. We like to talk about using it, right? And generative AI, and whether it's writing, or I think videos coming big, whether it's images, whatever it might be. And we also like to, what this is really about is not so much the AI, but it's really about the community. And we were talking with Liz earlier that, it's really about the people, right? And I think we have an opportunity to reconnect. I think post-COVID, there's a hunger for that. So with that, why don't you share, if you're willing to, Leah, talk about our values as a salon, like why we started this, what we stand for, and if you're new here, you know, what we invite you to step into.
Yeah. And I want to just remind everyone, this started as a conversation with Kyle and I. Like, hey, let's launch a thing because we don't know that much about AI and we want to learn more. And we're going on 5 months. And I am honored and so grateful that people are coming along with us on the ride because because of you, you're the ones that are making this such an incredible community. I'm incredibly grateful for that. I think we've come up with some values that I think are really important for our community, but then also as adventurers and kind of ambassadors for AI in general, as we expand out into the greater community. The first one is curiosity. And I think we all bring that here. That's why we're here. We're curious. We want to learn new things. So ask questions, experiment. When you're trying something new, reach out to someone else in the community. You can join our Discord, you can join our LinkedIn. I have found everyone in this community very interested in having conversations around AI. If you don't know how to do something, chances are someone in this community does, and they may have something that you know how to do, and they'll reach out to you as well. So curiosity. And that goes into generosity, right? Generosity. We're willing to share our knowledge, our resources, and feedback with others, support each other's growth and development. And there's so much to learn, and we can't possibly do it without each other. Exploration. We're excited to try new things and take risks, embrace uncertainty and ambiguity. Everything is happening so fast. Every single week, something new is happening. I feel like just by showing up and thinking about AI, we're exploring. Really important part of what we do here. Collaboration. We're looking for opportunities to work together, to exchange ideas, to create something that's bigger than either one of us could do on our own. Inclusion. We are actively seeking out a diverse group of people and perspectives and experiences. Recognizing differences do make us stronger. I think if you look around, you realize there's lots of people with lots of different backgrounds here, and everyone has something to contribute. Empathy. We're mindful of the impact of our work on others, and we strive to create work that is respectful, inclusive, and meaningful. AI is one of the most transformative technological advances in humanity. Humans matter, take each other in, and act from a place of compassion. I love our values.
Beautiful. I know. They're great. They're great. Oh, I wasn't sharing my screen, was I? No, I wasn't.
No.
Oh, well. I meant to. No, I love our values as well. And I think the empathy one for me, the more I internalize these tools, the more I I feel that the effects of AI are going to be quite profound. And it is scary and it's terrifying and exciting all at the same time. Like I feel like if you're not both tremendously excited and tremendously terrified, something's wrong. But I think the empathy part's really important, just because the more we understand, how these things might impact people, and how we can support one another. That's a big reason why this exists, right? Is like, I think you and I both knew that, and it was like, how do we create a community where we somehow can process all of what's going on?
I think process is a good word, and I think something we've established in other communities and other conversations and meetings is that AI can make us more human, and I think that feels like a big trend. And I think our values really play into that. That what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have a human experience? And I do think in my more optimistic moments that is what AI allows us to do, is to reevaluate what it means to be human and feel more human.
Yep, I think that's good. There's Eric Rowland. Hey, Eric, great guy. So one of the things we like to do here, following on with the empathy thing, is let's meet some folks. Maybe Denver, I don't know if you have your technical stuff together yet. Maybe we start online this time. So if you're dialing in, like say from New Jersey, or anywhere else in the world you might be, just raise your hand. It's the little hand at the bottom of the screen. Raise your hand. Ken will call on you. You've got 60 seconds. What I'd love to hear, even if we've met you before, just, who are you, what you do, and what you're doing with AI, or why you're here at the salon. So raise your hands. Would love to meet you, and then we'll meet the folks in Denver once they get their stuff together.
Okay, looks like Alan, you're first. Did not hurt you.
Hi there, let me get off. My name is Alan Chudnow. I'm an engineer, and I'm very interested in AI and how it's going to help me to move forward as an engineer and how it's going to make the world a better place. The engineering use cases, some are quite complicated. I'll give you an example of a complicated one. I was hoping that I could draw a block diagram on an envelope, and I would be able to use Mini GPT to convert that to a really good description, and then I could feed that to ChatGPT, and he could write a macro which would have PowerPoint draw it automatically for me. That would be like super cool. When I take a picture of your envelope and boom, it's in PowerPoint. Or you could even write a script that would put it in a model-based system engineering tool like Cameo. But unfortunately, Mini really at interpreting block diagrams, so that's not going to happen. So, so at least it does now. Maybe in 3 months it will solve that problem and be perfect at it, and then I won't have to do that anymore. The other thing, which is probably really more important, is that in a world we have right now, community is becoming the most important. And I'm very interested in how we can apply all this great technology to sort of enable humans to do a better job at community, because I think maybe the one social problem that if we fix, other things will be much easier to handle. So
Love it.
I'm going to get off the stage with that. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan.
Looks like Sky, you're up next.
Gotcha. I'm Sky Sant. I'm here in Denver, Colorado. I'm the director of user experience research and product design. So I have teams of both UX researchers and product designs. AI is doing cool stuff, not just ChatGPT, but just today I got an invite to be in a beta that's actually type what you need and we'll give you some interfaces for it. Oh, I need a marketing site that blah, blah, blah. And so it's not going to replace my job. Like it is often said, AI will not replace my job, but people who know how to use AI will replace me. So I'm leveling up. I'm actually in a job search and I use it for cover letters. I must have saved 5-6 hours today, not having to do cover letters and tell me about and why do you want to be hired here, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I have to edit it, but having something to start, oh, friends, it's awesome. So I'm a great believer. So that's me.
That's
Thanks.
awesome.
All right, welcome, Sky. Appreciate that. Drew, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm another guy from New Jersey. Yeah, what am I doing with AI right now? Well, my background is marketing, business strategy, digital, where digital and marketing met originally. Now that's all of marketing. And I kind of come from it, I guess, maybe more from the NBA kind of side, but I've spent most of my career working with great creative folks. And what I'm doing with AI right now is really trying to understand it, meaning hands-on, use it. I literally have 2 screens up, and one of them is a no-code AI platform, and the other is a code light AI platform. And I'm trying to create a replica of Amazon's product recommender. And I've been doing it all day, and my brain's numb. So
wow, what's the no-code tool that you're using?
So the no-code one is Akio.com. And this is the first time I've used it. I just wanted to see what it would do with the same exercise. This is a homework assignment, a project assignment for an course I'm taking through MIT. And so I figured I'd try a couple of different tools. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm just trying to get my hands dirty with this stuff. And I think one of the premises that I have is a lot of what I'm looking at from a business standpoint is this idea that more and more of our business decisions will be informed by AI. And this, and if you look at where businesses are right now, most decisions don't have a machine learning component to them. And why not think about where that kind of oracle can sit, and then we kind of consult it. Obviously, we still make the decisions, hopefully as humans, for a few more years. But the idea of, where's my go-to, partner in making decisions, and then so that's one place. And
All right, so I think we're gonna have to.
Oh, I got to wrap up.
Okay, you got to wrap it up.
So that's
Drew Shockley, you have your hand up. You're next.
Hey everyone, I'm Drew Shockley. I'm in Chicago. I'm an independent web designer and developer. I've been playing with AI for a while. Much gratitude for Kyle and everyone, and Leah and everyone doing this. Playing it with images, text, seeing if I can get it to create websites for me, WordPress plugins. Having some frustration even with images and text that doesn't quite get it perfectly, but I've enjoyed watching on Discord how other people have been playing with it. My handle is Drew Manchu, so it'd be helpful if other people might identify who they are, so we can kind of put faces with handles. So good to be here.
Welcome, Drew.
Yeah.
If you're new, if you just dialed in and you're online, just raise your hand and Ken will call on you to do intros. We'd love to meet you.
Eric Rowland, you're up next.
Leave the mic off. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Eric. I do data mining traditionally. I just started a new project though, so I'm replicating a study to automate scientific research. So yeah, using like an LLM to talk to vector database that has a bunch of like biology documents in it, and trying to like get it to create experiments on its own.
Nice. Awesome. Welcome, Eric. Gene, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Jane Endicott. I'm a content writer and I'm also an organizer for the group. I've been using AI chat GPT for about 2 months to help me with my work. And it's completely like just upended the work that I do. And it's every week I discover something new with it. When I think about, people talk about how fast everything is changing, and I don't know that it's so much about like the technology is going fast as much as it is a discovery. And so I've been thinking a lot about like how AI is just it's like the new world. It's like just this whole other like dimension world that we're discovering, and so that's what I kind of came to this group for.
All right, have you, Jane. Jeff Gray, you're up next.
Hello, my name is Jeff Gray. I'm here in Minneapolis, and I am working on AI as I'm in the apparel business, and I'm not a tech guy at all, and I'm working on a solution to be able to print physical goods from AI art. And I've been working on that for about 3-4 months now. And I've been in this group ever since, and it's been extremely helpful, and hearing your stories and getting your feedback. And I really appreciate it. And just meeting up with, a handful of you guys, it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience so far. And just to let you know, I've had some first meetings on what I've, been developing. And what I've learned is I'm meeting with some pretty large companies, and they're very impressed. It's amazing how much people, if you're not saturated into it like we are, how much people really do not understand and know what's going on. And when you tell them what you're working on, their mouth just drops open, and it's like a wow. It's like a wow factor. And being in the apparel business and meeting with buyers a lot, you're looking for that wow factor, and this is definitely a wow factor. And I'm excited to hopefully start with a first product in the next couple months or so. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks. We're excited to have you here. CJ Fletcher, you're up next.
Hi, everybody, and everybody in the room. Let's look this way. My name is CJ. I am a graphic designer for the ARC in Jefferson County, where we support and promote those who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm also a photographer and a digital artist. One of the things that I'm really excited about with this is taking AI and helping those with developmental disabilities actually express what they have in their brain and manifest it into pictures, into graphics and stories. It's really hard for them to do. So that's what I've been doing for the past year, trying to really learn the technology, learn how to craft these things so that those who we support in our community can start to express themselves.
Wow. CJ, is that your work behind you?
Yes, but I can't take full credit. That's Firefly. I got a hold of it like a day ago and decided to mess around with it.
It is yours because you put it's still your authorship. So yeah, we like to believe that, I like to believe who the person who authored it is the creator. So it's beautiful. It's great.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here, so you appreciate it. Severio, you're up next.
Oh, you're muted, Severio.
Oh. Still muted.
Oh,
Next. Well, welcome.
Anybody else want to go? Just go ahead and raise your hand.
Gentleman down here.
We got somebody here.
Sure.
My name's Ryan Medlin. I'm one of the co-founders and head of engineering for SpeechLab.ai. We focus on text-to-speech. Mainly the use case is upload a video, any video, transcribe it, translate it in any language, and use cloned voices of the speakers. And we can do that in about 30 minutes. So there's a lot of use cases, content creators, training, education. The ones I'm excited about is Spanish-only speaking individuals in the US who are blocked by various training videos that everyone's like, oh, well, what do we do? We have 20 videos you need to watch in order to get unblocked for insurance and whatnot. So I'm excited about that instead of Mr. Beast videos. And I also do products, so I play around with a lot of things. So I'm using like Boomy, Midjourney, great music, great art. Right now, I'm totally in the weeds on Auto GPT, which will recursively call Chat GPT and execute programs and do Google searches. And I just watch it. I put 5 goals and I watch it do its work, and I'm just like mind blown. So it's really exciting.
What's the name of your website again?
It's SpeechLab.ai. And I moved here from San Francisco. I was in San Francisco 14 years, and I just moved to Denver. So I was trying to get out of the house.
Great to have you here. All right. Big Dipper, you're up next.
Hi, I'm JR or Jen. I've been to a couple of these meetings, and I thought I'd reintroduce myself because next time I'll only be able to dial in because I'm taking a new job, or a temporary assignment, I should say, out of state. And so it'll just be dial in. You won't probably be hearing from me then. But I'm a data artist. I'm a jewelry artist also. And I do a lot of parametric programming to create my designs. So I'm kind of using AI right now to kind of like a lot of the designs that I create out of my CAD models are very architectural. So I'm using like the architectural creations that I have from the CAD and trying to input into the AI what my vision of it is and seeing what pictures it kind of produces for me so I can kind of build out the hard blocks in the CAD program from there. So that's, and then just playing around with it a whole bunch of other ways too.
Is there somewhere online we can see your work?
There will be, and I will let you know when I have it up.
Okay, sounds so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for introducing yourself, Jen. Scott Arndt, you're up next.
Hello, from the coast of Maine. Professionally, I sort of sell pure maple syrup. And then in the AI world, I am just an explorer. I've recently been playing with Chat GPT and trying to see what use cases are available. And one thing I did since the last meeting was I used ChatGPT to help me write a presentation about AI. So using the AI, I created an outline and then just fed it that and iterated with it to create about an hour-long presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and present that to a Discord group that I'm part of. And the other one that I found really interesting is that I just have conversations with it. And it's pretty shocking what I get fed back to me from the AI in a very, I think in a very positive way. It's kind of like having a therapist at times. I jokingly call it therapist GPT because I will just sort of iterate through things. And having worked with other human beings, professionals, I'm shocked at how high-level professional information it gives me back. It makes mistakes, and it's pretty stunning. So that's what I do. I also play with Midjourney and Dolly and things like that on occasion.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Appreciate it. Scenario, you want to give it another try?
How's this? Can you hear me? Yay. Okay. My name is Severio. I'm a photographer in Chicago. I'm a commercial portrait and lifestyle photographer, and I've been playing with Midjourney for the last 3 months or so. I was invited to this group by my friend Liz Miller, also in Chicago. So hi, Liz. I don't see you here, but I'm sure you are. And I'm interested in this group because of course, I'm a photographer and I'm interested in where this is going and where I might participate professionally. But I'm also teaching a community level course to my library in June. And I've been working on a way of explaining this, kind of like Jeff's point, that people don't know about AI, for those that aren't saturated in it. It's brand new. And I'm trying to bring this to my community here in Brookfield, Illinois, outside of Chicago, in conjunction with their talk about ChatGPT about a week prior. So I'm just collecting information, playing with Midjourney, and trying to understand commercially where it might go.
I think that's huge. I feel increasingly week by week that individual contributions, like teaching, your small community or the community library what this is, the positive impact that's going to have is so outweighed because we're so early. Like the importance of it is massive. So I just want to commend you for that because I think it's actually really important. So I find that very inspiring.
I think among photographers, especially people who are 2D artists, there's a lot of fear with AI. And so when we can be out educating people like you're doing, I think it helps kind of spark curiosity. And I think it takes the edge off the fear a little bit. So I'm excited. I'm excited. I hope you come back. Hope you're here and you share that with us because I'm excited to hear how you present it and what you say.
Thank you. It all started with a lot of lost sleep when I first learned about it.
Yeah.
And I would just learn to love the bomb.
Yep.
Yep. Exactly.
That's very common. That's very common.
And I feel like with being together as community makes the fear a little less fearful, right? Like we can kind of all do this.
All right, thanks, Severio. Rebecca Cooperman, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Becky. I am working on incorporating ChatGPT and Midjourney and various tools like that into the future foresight work. So helping me envision scenarios, future artifacts has been really fun. Just thinking of things that maybe take a little bit more prodding than what I'm typically doing for myself.
Terrific.
Perfect.
I think that's everyone. If anyone hasn't introduced themselves and wants to, just toss your hand up, hit the hand raise button. Otherwise, great. You said it before, Leah, that the diversity of backgrounds I think is incredible. This continues to remind me of the early days of the web when I first got into that in the 90s because nobody knew how to do it. Everyone was coming from some outside career, and I feel this just feels very similar. But it's also we talked a meeting or two ago about this idea that no matter how small an insight you have or something that you think is patently obvious is a major breakthrough for someone else, just because you're probably coming at it through one lens and they see the world through another lens. So don't underestimate the things you share can really have a profound impact. So I'm quite inspired by that.
I think sometimes, especially with this being so brand new, I don't even like what you and Severio just talked about in terms of educating the community is not necessarily something I had, like I knew, but I hadn't quite formed that yet. And so I think what happens for me a lot in the salon is I take notes, and all of this stuff that was sort of bouncing around in my head starts to become much more concrete, and I can name it and I can talk about it. And so again, like that one thing that to you feels really obvious is such a spark and such a like light bulb to hear it from others in the community.
Yeah. I also I have started taking a semi-perverse joy in like blowing people's minds with ChatGPT. So I spoke at a small business summit this past week, and I did 2 sessions. It was a morning session and an afternoon session. So I had 90 minutes, and the talk that I had prepared was essentially an hour-long talk, but I had 90 minutes. So I did, my 90 minutes my 60 minutes on storytelling, and then I did a little bit of back and forth with the crowd. And then when it sort of died out, I had 15 minutes left, and I said, okay, bonus time. We just talked for an hour about storytelling, but I'm going to show you something. And I put the URL of ChatGPT up on the screen, and I said, write this down. I said, bookmark this. And then I asked someone who was, starting a business. I said, tell me about your business. And they told me. And so then I said, describe a business that does this, and I described their business, in an M&M wrap. And everyone would giggle at that. And then I hit the return button, and it would just go, and out would come this M&M wrap. And then you could just see their jaws drop. And then I said, okay, that's a cute parlor trick, but now let me try something. And one of them I did was this woman had a gardening business, like a home gardening business for people that are busy. She designs gardens for busy people. And so I said, ChatGPT, make me a table of plants that thrive in Denver that, are good for busy people who can't really take care of their plants. And in the table, also put how tall the plants get. And, I just typed that in and I hit return, and it just generated this table. And it was like ChatGPT's gotten much faster in the past month or so, I've noticed. And so it literally just spit this thing out with like 20 rows of like all these plants. And the woman was just like, she was like, that would be like 5 or 6 hours for me. She goes, I do that. And she goes, that was 5 or 6 hours. And it's just that moment for me where people actually see what this thing can do in context of what they're up to. It's just, it really is magic.
You shared a hack on TikTok this week that blew my mind, and I'll share it with everyone. But if you haven't seen Kyle's TikTok, I think it was this week or last.
Yeah.
On GitHub, you shared a hack where you can go onto GitHub and go to the About or the README.
The README.
Copy and paste the README into ChatGPT, and it will give you step-by-step directions about how to use whatever the program is on GitHub. Blew my mind.
Yeah, and there's a follow-on hack because one of the guys in the comments said if you have ChatGPT give it to you step by step, and only when you say okay does it move on to the next step. So it literally walks you step by step through. And what you do is you say, I'm on a Mac OS X, and I want to get this thing in GitHub running. Here's the README, and give me the instructions step by step. And then if you add that thing, do it. Don't move on to the next step until I've said okay. And it literally is like having someone that knows what they're doing, hand-holding you through setting up a GitHub. And it was fascinating because some of the more technical people on my TikTok were like, this is stupid and obvious, man. Why don't you just read me? And then other people were like, oh my God, this is a miracle.
It was amazing. I mean, GitHub is, I want to know everything on GitHub, and I'm like plodding along. Like I'm a photographer, not a programmer, and some things don't work, and I email the developer. So I have earmarked that to play this weekend. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's great. Terrific. We'll talk a little bit about news. The one thing that I think was worthy of note, and if anyone has any news items they thought were particularly interesting, in the past week, 4 different open source large language models dropped. One came from Stability, 3 others, and none of them were kind of in the Chat GPT class, the GPT 3 and 4 class, but they're very, very close, but they're open source. So the models dropped, the weights dropped, and 4 of them, one from Stability. There was another big company, and then there were 2 smaller ones. It reinforced for me that, and also Amazon announced, Amazon's doing a kind of, you can use multiple models from different companies except OpenAI because they're a competitor, but Amazon's also going to have their own large language models. So everyone's going to have these. They're going to live at the commercial level, at the sort of Microsoft Azure and AWS level, but they're also going to live at the open source level and everything in between. So it reinforces for me that all of the stuff that we're playing with that does feel like this thing off to the side, where we're playing with AI off to the side, is very, very quickly just going to become part of the fabric of when you use a computer, this stuff will be there. And I think pretty quickly, even if you're not connected to the internet, this will probably live at kind of operating system level within the machines we use. So that seemed fairly profound to me, that it just reinforces this stuff isn't going away, no matter what lawsuits happen, no matter what governments say you can't use this. It's water through the dam at this point.
I do feel like it's moving faster. The technology is moving faster than anyone can keep up to try to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan?
Thank you. I'm in other places where we talk about, AI alignment and those sort of critical issues. How do we keep people from using this to do extremely evil things, which if you consider jailbreaking, will tell you things. And I think the moment is past for that based on what you just said. What really blew my mind was 2 weeks ago when you demoed AutoGPT or Agent GPT. And that for me was the moment when AI became unstoppable.
Yeah.
Basically, the Bastille has been broken into, and it's only a matter of time before, the AI revolution really changes the world.
Yep.
It's not as violent as the revolution I just mentioned, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To go forward, alignment or not, or stop or not, or laws or not, it's already just released into the environment.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. John, did you have a question?
No, it's fine.
Roger, go ahead.
Yeah. So another sort of news item is one way to judge how significant the world thinks some new piece of research is how many YouTube videos there are, how quickly on a topic. And on, I think it was April 13th, which is what, 2 weeks plus a day or 2 ago, Stanford and Google Research released a paper on generative agents.
Yes.
And as of 2 days ago, when I looked, there were at least 10 YouTube videos discussing that paper already. I think that paper is definitely going to be, one of the most important papers in the last, well, I guess these days, the last couple of months, not still a sweeping statement, right? So
yeah, and if you don't know the generative agents paper, so it's done in the guise of a SimCity like game. So in video games, what are called NPCs, non-player characters. They're like the dude at the tavern that serves you your beer, and they say the 7 things that they say. They're generally hard coded into the thing. What these generative agents do is they actually essentially have lives. Like the artist wakes up, makes breakfast for herself, does art, and then walks around the community. And as these non-player characters interact with one another, they have conversations, and they remember those conversations from day to day. So like one of the guys decided to have a birthday party, found out it was one of the other characters' birthday, and organized a party and told like 30 other characters that he was organizing a party, and they were all talking about the party. So these things are standalone agents that essentially, act human. I agree, Roger. I think I think that one's quite significant. And even though it's presented in this game, you could imagine those things being turned loose on your behalf.
That's just it. It's important to keep in mind that they chose the game to do this as a safe sandbox to experiment with this. A lot of people think they did this because they wanted to experiment with NPCs. And that was like a second or third order issue, according to the authors. Really, this is about a framework to experiment with autonomous agents that can interact with one another. And particularly, they were interested in the topic of long-term coherence, basically of having these things, you know, what they do today makes sense versus what they did, you know, this morning or yesterday or last week. And so you need something that sort of lives life day after day. And the results are, you know, these early results are pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's a big one. If you haven't read that paper, it's definitely worth. Generative Agents is the name of the paper. It's definitely worth looking at. Great. Great. So from a time perspective, I would love to shift gears here. If anyone's got any other big news stories, feel free to raise your hand. But what I'd love to do is turn it over to you, Leah, to introduce our guest of honor. I'm super excited about this conversation. We've just got one speaker tonight, just as a housekeeping thing moving forward. I think we're going to shift to a model where we only have one speaker per meeting, because with two, like everyone's got such interesting things to say, we end up not having enough time. So we're going to shift to a model where we have one speaker, and it gives us a little more time to interact as a community as well and ask questions. So with that, Leah, why don't you take off and tell us who we're about to meet.
I'm very, very excited to introduce Ms. Liz Miller Gershfield, who will be speaking tonight. She has worked at ad agencies in Chicago for 23 years. When I think of as an art producer, and when I think of Liz, I think of her as a champion and someone who makes great creative work happen by pulling different people together to make that work happen. She's now thinking about how to do that through the lens of AI. And so she's going to share with us her wisdom from her time as a producer and give us some conversation about, like, what does this look like going forward, and how do we do that? So without further ado, Miss Liz Miller Gershfield.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be speaking tonight. Thank you for inviting me. The AI Salon shares knowledge abundantly. I've learned so much from you all. This is such an intersectional collection of people. I think that's part of what makes it so exciting and interesting. I'm going to chat with you tonight from my own intersection of experiences. I'm not an AI expert, but I do have a perspective from my space in the ecosystem. The other day, I saw a post made by a photo agent, and in it, she declared, "Nothing made by AI can be art." She's a big agent, and I noticed the likes racking up, as well as the agreements in the comments. And I noticed a handful of tentative artists gently suggesting that they actually put a lot of effort into their AI work, and they feel that possibly what they're making does have merit. It's such a vulnerable thing to be an artist. Some people may have a lot of confidence in their voice, but for a lot, working through a new process and doing anything new can feel very unsafe, especially when we're talking about such a charged topic and using social media to discuss it. This last weekend, I attended a storytelling retreat, and it was an incredible experience. There were so many amazing writers and storytellers in this group. And in addition to hearing talks and stories and attending sessions, there was an open mic piece to the whole weekend. And I've been participating in this space a little bit for a few years now, but when I stood up in front of that mic, I faced down my own feelings of being an imposter, and I'm not possibly good enough to stand in front of this group. And just like they did for every other person in my position, the audience applauded like crazy. It felt great. And I know that it made me better. And the only discouraging voice was the voice in my own head. And that voice is always there. I think it's important for anyone who's engaging with artists to find a space to engage with their own creativity, where they have to push into that frightening space. It creates empathy An empathetic and supportive community gives artists room to do better work, and artists move culture forward. No matter what tools are used, this is distinctly human. This agent who posted, she went on to write that the reason she said AI art can't possibly have any artistic merit is because it lacks intention. I like the way Rick Rubin, the legendary music producer and co-founder of Def Jam Recordings, writes about intention in his book, The Creative Act. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out or hear any interviews with him about it, please do so. He says that a completed project is made up of our intention and our experiments around it. If you remove intention, all that's left is the ornamental shell. I would build on that by saying that if you remove experimentation, there's no art that can live in the world. It lives forever in the artist's brain. And if we're engaging with artists in any way, it's our duty to be kind and encouraging, experimental, and untethered to end results. Production and advertising is often very tactical or iterative, and every now and then it's highly creative and elegant. And I've worked on both sides of the spectrum over my career, and I appreciate the perspective that it allows me to have. Intention in this space is a highly managed force, and the finished work we create has very specific communication needs. Large amounts of money are on the line. We sell an idea, and the way the idea is sold to clients has many consequences for the way it's executed. The best work I've ever been a part of producing, the highly creative kind, has been sold as an idea with the most minimal description of how it can come to life. This allows for collaboration. There's a real skill to communicating art direction and the contents of what will be captured in a shoot that leaves an opening for a creative partner to bring their vision to the table. We have to know what we're shooting, of course, but when we can leave an opening for a photographer or a director or an artist, we get out of our own way of limiting what it can be. A potential pain point for me and any producer is around pre-visualization in the context that I'm describing. Because when creatives sell an idea with a comp or a mood board that's fleshed out too far, especially now with AI tools like Midjourney that can describe lighting and lensing and specific environments and other elements that don't take into consideration the realities of budgets or time, or even what a potential partner may actually be capable of pulling off. It puts everyone into a position where we may need to walk back expectations. And then it really doesn't leave room for high-level collaboration with artists who have a vision of their own. However, using tools with a light touch to illustrate a visual of an idea helps clients understand what a team intends to produce. It can create a bridge to understanding how a concept might come to life. On the other hand, it's very powerful when artists use AI in their treatments or in pre-production. The artists who are going to produce the work, they know what's possible within the constraints. They help set the expectations. They get everyone excited for their vision, and it can help win the jobs in competitive situations. As the legal issues resolve, these artists are going to be poised to have a broader and deeper set of tools and skills for the new creative problems that are going to emerge. On productions, a lot of the time, the best work comes from the unscripted or unexpected surprises. The happy accidents that someone with vision sees in the moment and captures. And allowing this to happen does not represent a lack of intention. I think AI is going to be a powerful tool for collaborating in a much more real-time way leading up to productions. Managing risk and expectations using tools to envision the elements and co-creating a vision that will allow for bolder partnerships and create more of an opening for the kismet on set. I'm curious to see how it makes its way into workflows as we all become more fluid in working with it. And this collaborative pre-visualization piece is going to be powerful in any industry or space where people need to translate what's in their imaginations. We all know the saying, the medium is the message. And I watched that evolution as I moved from producing magazine print and billboards to producing global campaigns that live on social media and out in the world on the sides of buildings, from Tokyo to Times Square. The ideas change with the venues and are crafted for the way people consume them. I'm dizzy trying to imagine what this will mean as we move into the metaverse and beyond. Even now, we create so many versions of each idea to be global that allow for casting and cultural and environmental or location differences. There are regulatory and product differences in many categories and legal lines in every language. And the pain point here is that budgets and people are always stretched way too thin. As the creative needs expand with ideas that need to iterate into an incredibly complex matrix of variations, it's going to be exciting to use AI tools to help. The technology is already there. The first production I ever worked on was the presidential debate in 1992 with Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr., and Ross Perot in East Lansing, Michigan, where I was going to journalism school. Watching all of that chaos result in something cohesive was interesting to me. After I graduated, I moved to Chicago and started working in the production community. I worked as a second AD on a low-budget feature film that was filmed in 3 prisons, where my role was to coordinate the extras. And what that meant was handing out Marlboro Reds to prison inmates and not getting paid. I found my way to the advertising production community after a couple more low-budget films, and I worked in an entry-level capacity in many roles and departments, from lighting to art to camera to craft service, which are the snacks, which is a very important job, and over time to producer. Eventually, I was hired by a big ad agency, BBDO, where I worked for 23 years until I resigned to expand my own possibilities, to consider areas outside of advertising, as well as including that space. One thing that's been a constant throughout my career has been a deep appreciation of artists. I wouldn't have a role worth having without them, and I deeply value treating them fairly and with appreciation. And there's a lot to consider around that in this time. Excuse me. So one piece of a producer's role is to find the people, the artists, the creators, the businesses that solve creative problems. Sometimes those problems are very straightforward, and sometimes they become more complex or less obvious to solve. And the first piece is understanding the vision or the idea, and then finding the right people to help. Sometimes that involves creating collaborations with people whose disciplines complement each other, but maybe it weren't obvious. A few of the ways I've done that in the advertising space was sending a documentary style photographer with a writer and no one else to find the stories for a coffee brand, combining a fashion photographer with a beverage photographer who normally would never be paired, so they could each do what they do best rather than dilute the results for a tequila brand, and pairing a wildly hilarious street photographer known for finding and pulling the funniest moments out of people with period costume designers from the film world in Hollywood to create an ad campaign for whiskey that needed to feel like it came out of shoeboxes of photos from the 1960s. So one piece of my role as a producer is to have a deep and varied Rolodex of people with skills and understanding where they exist on a scale from styles to capabilities to price points and everything in between. And the other piece is helping these people to work together. There are a number of pain points in this space. The more divergent the combinations of people, the greater the difficulty in bridging the divide between spoken languages, conceptual languages, and disciplines. The more able we are to create that bridge, the more creative we can be. Conceptually, this is a space I think AI is going to be an exciting tool. One of the difficulties of being a creative producer is helping everyone understand along the path to a production what is in each of their imaginations. We have multiple disciplines working together, from the set designers who create the spaces to the photographers who have ideas about how to lens and light and compose. We also have the creative team who may have pictures in their own minds. Working together with AI tools, it's going to be a truly collaborative experience, bridging conceptual language barriers, and everyone is going to be expected to know how to work with it. So many photographers I'm following are immersing in this world, experimenting, being surprised, and finding their distinct voice. The copyright issues are slowing our roll, and in a way, that's a gift. It gives this dizzyingly fast-moving space a little pause. And in that pause, creators can learn to co-create with tools that are more powerful than anyone knows, including the people who made them. People are combining tools and creating workflows that never existed. The AI art community is incredibly supportive and generous in sharing. And what's exciting to me is seeing something genuinely new arise. I've marveled in seeing the generative work made by architects who are creating buildings and spaces using AI tools that engineering will have to catch up with. Imaginations always lead the way. I can imagine collaborations between photographers and directors and these architects envisioning spaces. Fashion stylists with incredible points of view are using the generative space to show work they couldn't afford to produce in real life. And I can imagine collaborations between them and other artists. I want to back up a bit out of advertising to make the point that none of us know where any of this is going. In a video released last month by the Institute for Humane Technology called The AI Dilemma, which you can find on YouTube, Tristan Harris and Asa Raskin describe this time as the total decoding and synthesizing of reality. They describe generative large language models as turning everything into language. Of course, pictures and music and videos, but also DNA, animal language, and Asa Raskin's Earth Species Project, biometrics, proteins, even fMRI data. I have to tell you about this one. If you don't know, fMRI means functional magnetic resonance imaging, and it measures brain activity by detecting changes associated with blood flow. Harris and Raskin describe an example, and if you want to know more, it's written about in the journal Science. A study was conducted where a research group in Japan recently from Osaka University added additional training to Stable Diffusion. They demonstrate that the AI can recreate largely realistic versions of images a person has seen by reading their brain scans. In other words, in the AI dilemma, they showed an example where a person looked at a picture of a giraffe. They went into an fMRI machine. The AI read only the fMRI image of their brain and recreated the giraffe. The scientists talk about using that to understand what's going on in animal brains or people who are paralyzed. My own imagination can go in a lot of directions on that one. In the AI dilemma, they also talk about emergent capabilities in generative large language models, and they call them golems that were not programmed into the systems. They shared a few examples, such as large language models developing theory of mind. If you don't know, that's the ability to infer and understand another person's mental state and use this behavior to explain and predict human behavior. ChatGPT taught itself research-grade chemistry, and they describe a paper titled Large Language Models Can Self-Improve out of the University of Illinois, describing how AI makes stronger AI. Jeff Dean, who is an SVP at Google AI, said, although there are dozens of examples of emergent abilities, there are currently few compelling explanations for why such abilities emerge. Computer scientist Jerome Lanier, considered a founder in the field of virtual reality, wrote an article in the recent New Yorker titled, "There is no AI," meaning the intelligence is not artificial, it's human. where he writes that the technology is an innovative form of social collaboration. I'm challenging myself, and I invite all of you to think of the places where we need bridges, the concepts and disciplines that are difficult to connect. I think these are the spaces that AI will bring us together. And importantly, conceiving of it in that way includes human beings. I found this New Yorker article very hopeful in the discussion of artists' rights and a possible way forward that's fair. He writes about a concept called data dignity, which he contributed to developing along with Glenn Weil, an economist and researcher at Microsoft. He writes that in a world with data dignity, digital stuff would typically be connected with the humans who want to be known for having made it. Implementing data dignity is going to require technical research and policy innovation. That's not a fast thing. It's not going to happen right away, but it's opening the black box. A data dignity approach would trace the most unique and influential contributors when a big model provides a valuable output. There's a data dignity research community, and there are debates going on within it about how detailed the accounting data dignity should attempt. Rights organizations like unions and guilds and professional groups, they're all going to play an important role in this space. Essentially, they're going to be data trusts. People are going to need collective bargaining to find their value in this world and get compensated appropriately. In the world of agents and reps, this is going to be an imperative and a huge area of growth. Do we hope or do we fear? Yes. Carl Jung said, only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. In this time of enormous change, being able to hold two opposing ideas in our minds at once, knowing that both are true, this is a skill, a practice, and a meditation. But we need to take it in order to see what's here. This time, it feels like a fever dream. If you pay attention, I can't look away. I so appreciate this group and the value of curiosity that you built it on. I know for me, curiosity lives in the same space in my brain as fear. You have to go toward it to learn, but it's distinctly human. It's choosing to be flexible rather than grasping in a time of constant change, to stand firm in our integrity while allowing our minds to be changed with openness to new ideas, to both connect and individuate. This time challenges us to recombine our disciplines and ways of doing things in ways yet to be imagined. I come back to the agent who wrote that AI art can't be art, and I have compassion that she feels scared. A lot of people do, and fear and compassion are part of what makes us human. But turning away won't stop anything. It's curiosity. It lights the path. So thank you for having me.
Wow.
Awesome.
I'm so happy we record this salon because I am going to listen to this over and over. It's so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we have time to, if people have questions or have comments, I think we can put hands up. I have been digging into the Jaron Lanier article too, and I'm so glad that you referenced it and his approach to thinking about data and what's human. It's a worthwhile article for everyone to read. I really appreciate it that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a good writer, and what a thinker.
Yeah, he's quite a thinker. Thank you so much for that, Liz. There's a generosity in what you put out there. Like, I feel like you've moved through curiosity and considering what you do and what you've done for so long, the amount of transformation that's coming for you, like how you source the talent and who you source. One of the questions that I have for you is, how are you reconciling, or how do you envision how you source moving forward? Do you think that you will continue to have specialists that just do their individual tasks, or do you think we're moving to a world where you'll have Renaissance people that can wield these tools across disciplines, where you'll source fewer people for similarly or even more complex results. But I'm just curious, how you're envisioning the path forward, because it feels to me like each of the disciplines that you source are going to be disrupted individually.
Mhm.
And you're sitting at the crossroads of this. I just can't even imagine how you're getting your head around it.
Yeah. It's funny. Yes. I mean, I have to say that recently, and more than ever, I've seen a call for artists where the words authenticity and real and documentary are used more than ever. And in that space, and the people, the creatives and the clients who want to work with people in those spaces, they don't want to fake it. And they value that a great deal. So I don't think that we're going to walk away from those artists. But I do think that there are, like Leah, you were talking about iterative versions of what you're shooting. I think that everybody's going to have to understand how this works, because it's in some space, it's going to add value. It's going to save money. In some spaces, it's going to make work better. And I don't have the answer, but I am trying to expose myself to as many artists as possible and understand what the skills that they're going to need are.
I really appreciate what you said about vulnerability right at the beginning. And I think that one of the things I'm noticing in this space is that there's a lot of friction right now between people who are using AI tools and people who aren't.
Yeah.
And both groups are feeling so vulnerable. And I think we're all very protective of our processes and what we've learned. What I am noticing is just how it's starting to pull us apart rather than put us together. And I think the artists who are embracing both, really remarkable things are going to start to happen. I mean, I work from a place of what's real. People have brought me on set for years because of what's real, what's authentic, right? That's my thing. And so it's very interesting to me that now I'm also starting to be able to create that using AI tools. What's real? Like, what does that even start to mean? And so it'll be interesting to see how those intersections start to play out commercially and creatively. I mean, I feel myself already like craving film, right? I'm like, I spend all day working in AI, and then I'm like, I want to take my Hasselblad out and roll film through it. That's interesting. I haven't felt that craving in a long time, paying attention to it. So I think there is a kind of like there are two forces really at work here. It'll be interesting to see how they intersect and how people in your role are starting to use them. I loved what you said about, and I think one of our intros early on talked about how can we give AI to people who wouldn't normally be able to access something creatively, right?
Yes.
And so now, if everyone can access the AI to show creative, what does the creative's role become in the process? Which I think is an interesting question too.
I think it becomes very fluid. Ideas are ideas, and that's where it starts. And I think it's going to flatten the access to who generates ideas.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I guess execution will start to become more important then too. That it won't just be about the idea. The artist will then become even more the person who's doing the execution, per se.
And I mean, I think that there are art directors who are becoming very skilled, and they're able to show what they're thinking about, and they're going to be the people who are going to actually execute some ideas very well. And then there are art directors who really want to work with partners. They want to collaborate, and they want the surprise that brings.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just kind of curious, as somebody who's very experienced in the advertising industry, how do you see AI kind of synthesizing with personalized ads and people's kind of desires to want. I mean, people seem to have a real skepticism or fear almost of personalized ads. I'm just wondering how you see AI's future with personalization in ads.
I mean, I think that it's going to get really crazy for a while, and then people are going to shut it down a little bit. That's my prediction. I think that people are going to be so saturated. I don't know. I mean, I think that there are some people who are never putting down their devices, and for those people, and you know, like I think about the bots that Kyle was demonstrating, right? The Shakespeare and all of those very all of those bots with specific voices. And I know that the personalization is going to start to use people's own voices to create advertisements that are persuasive in their own language. And that's going to be really interesting and troubling.
I think Meta rolled out that they're going to start when they show you a ad in your newsfeed, or they show you an ad, it's generated as they're showing it to you. So they take the data that they know, and then the ad is generated as it's dropped into the feed. I read that recently.
It's crazy because when you were speaking about the metaverse, kind of combining with AI, the first thing that came to my mind was that show Mama and how they handle advertising. I was like, oh my God.
Well, I know people who are already creating places in the metaverse that are being that are specific to brands. Brands are creating places for people to go in the metaverse, and I don't know how I feel about.
I don't know how I feel either. I think Roger has a question for you here.
Boy.
I have a comment/question on something Leah said that I'd be very interested in hearing Liz's thoughts on too. So Leah, you mentioned that the introduction of these AI tools is sort of creating a schism of sorts, and not just a community between the adopters and the fearful, one way of putting it. And is that sort of division necessarily a bad thing? I mean, isn't diversity of thought in the long term a good thing? And if you can, maybe they'll temporarily split apart, but then they find some new way to fit back together. Is that necessarily something to be to shy away from?
I think diversity of thought is fabulous. I think it's necessary. I do think, though, that when there are power hierarchies in the spaces where people are dialoguing and people feel shut down because somebody maybe somebody a little more powerful is saying, this is bad, don't interact with this. And they're also coming from this place where I think that there is a belief that if you interact with these tools, that you are complicit to mass thievery.
Right.
And I don't agree with that. But I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding that's driving the fear. Leah, what do you think?
I think it's pretty magical what can happen when these edges start to come together, and they're done with curiosity, and they're done with intention, and they're done with kindness. I think it's actually where remarkable work can be made.
Yeah. Liz, can I ask you, have you done any projects where the AI work, whether words or images, has moved out of the concept stage and you've delivered, client work that is, AI delivered?
Nope. No.
Haven't done it yet.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you were on when the guy from Deloitte was here, Mike.
I heard his talk. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where he was like, he's not even allowed to use the tools on his work computer, right? So
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know, so I've been freelancing and it's been wonderful because it's given me an opportunity to go into a lot of other agencies and talk to people. And I've been having a lot of conversations with colleagues, and people are not engaging with it as much as you would think. They're being told that they, you know, can't use it on their computers. They can't, and they're a lot of agency culture is so busy that people are stretched incredibly thin, and they don't have the bandwidth for
To
learning.
innovate. Oh, that's interesting.
It's interesting because the thing that AI can actually help really well with are those moments where you're stretched too thin. Like,
Yes.
you know, AI has become, it's just, I use it all day long. If I'm at my computer doing anything, it helps just, I'm so much more productive with it. I don't know if people even understand how helpful it can be if you are stretched too thin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think, Becky, you have a question?
Yeah, I actually had a follow-up question to that. I was just wondering if you think the brands are also potentially either worried about the bullshit generation that can occur with tools like LLM models, or if you think it's also more of a trying to stay out of the limelight and take a position on AI.
What I'm getting from the people I've been talking to is everybody is being told by their legal teams, don't go near this. I listened to one legal seminar with an agency legal team, and one of the things that came up also was in compensation models, and that potentially if people are using AI tools, that compensation models could potentially be reduced, which I thought was an interesting point. I don't know where people stand on that. That was just in one seminar. But many agencies are being told just simply no engaging with AI, period. But here's the thing. As soon as the legal issues are worked out, agencies are going, or clients are going to expect people to know how to engage with them very quickly, because they're going to see the potential for how much it can save in so many ways, how much efficiency it can drive. So it serves everyone to learn.
Also, I wonder if there'll be like a whole host of agencies that are launched, or creative teams that are launched that are working just in AI. Like the pizza, there's an AI pizza ad that's been floating around the internet that is so bad and hilarious and feels so, it's fantastic. And I wonder if that's actually what will end up happening, right? If that will be the, you know, the agencies that are established will start shifting when, you know, the new startups start winning awards, right? And start getting all the attention.
Yeah, well, and it'll also go from laughable to dramatic really, really quickly. Hilarious right now, but give it 6 months.
Well, I mean, of course, Heinz and Coke, they've done some high-profile campaigns where they trained an AI on their own product and did user-generated, and you know, it was nice. It wasn't highly conceptual, but it was using the technology.
It was a stunt.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I think Jane, you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could elaborate on that whole, like the legal teams are saying, don't touch it. Because I like, when you said that at first, I thought like, oh, plagiarism, you know, like original work. Like we haven't even scratched the surface as far as, you know, whether AI is considered original. But then you mentioned it's a compensation model. I'm a content writer, and I've used ChatGPT, and I've already saved my clients time, which means they save money.
Yep.
And I thought that's interesting. Like, I just wondered if you could elaborate on that. Like that's the thing that the lawyers are worried about is like the agency is making money, you know, versus plagiarism, which is a way bigger deal than, you know, than I guess profit. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know.
Jane, I don't know you, but the question does not make you seem crazy to me. So the legal seminar that I attended, where they touched on the compensation, saying the idea that and I wasn't able to ask questions, so this was just me taking it in.
Sure.
So I don't claim a level of expertise in this, but what they said was that clients could suggest that if people are using AI tools in their work, that their compensation model could be a little lower because they're not putting as much human work into it. And then the other thing that I was saying about agencies being told by their legal team, simply don't touch it, is now these lawyers are not talking to me. If I'm coming into an agency and I'm working as a freelancer, I'm not hearing it from the lawyers. I'm hearing it from the teams of producers and other people saying, we've been told by the lawyers we cannot engage with AI whatsoever. Because you have to know, I'm an enthusiast. So the first thing I ask people is, tell me, how are you guys using AI? What are you guys saying about it? What do you know? It's very exciting. And people get a scared look in their face. We're not allowed. So.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
And I think Roger has another question.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Apart from the compensation question, I thought the two sort of sides of the legal issues coin. One was, do you have the right to the material that, are you, the material you're using to build it? But I thought the other was, do you even own what you produce? Because that's a big issue right now too. And if you're a company that's creating content that you expect to have the rights to, if there's a legal uncertainty about that, then that, from a business standpoint, is a big issue, right? I mean, you're investing in something that you might not own when you're done. So I think both on the input and the output side, there's a lot of uncertainty about who owns what here, and that makes the business people very nervous.
100%. The inputs and the outputs, and the inability to own the images or have copyrights on the images. That's a big part of it. But there is an inability to adopt any tools, and there are tools which can lead to a lot of efficiency that aren't like a Midjourney or a Dolly, or I mean, there are ways to incorporate AI tools that aren't necessarily treading on that water, and even there, people are being told not to touch it. But yes, Roger, you make an excellent point. That's exactly true.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think to Leah's point about, some 3 or 4 person shop that specializes in AI, they're going to come in and win some major account that's going to wake up some agency execs that are like, holy crap, we got to deal with this.
There will be a moment where people are expected to know it. And in that moment, yes, it's going to be very disruptive.
It's going to be that. It's also speed of turnaround. I think speed of turnaround. I heard this today at the pharma that I was meeting at, that he's expecting agency partners to be able to turn around concepts in days, not weeks. And the agencies are not responding well to it. And someone's going to respond well to it. And a big agency is going to have their butt handed to them.
Yeah. Yes. And just versioning.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I don't understand why it's not being used immediately.
Yeah.
All right, Doug, you have a question?
Yeah, a comment. I sorry I came in late, but one comment is there's a conference actually going on this week called Unleash, which is all the human resource people, and there's like 15 different sessions. I put that in the post on around AI, and so in terms of how do human resource look at using generative AI in their tools. So take a look at that. I may actually be working on it. I finished a workshop last week to business people, but I may be part of a group doing focusing on human resource and generative AI So that's one comment. The other one is I put in to ChatGPT, I asked, come up with 10 ways you can be criminally liable using generative AI. And then I put in, give me 10 ways you can be civilly liable for using generative AI. And I put a couple of them in the response that I did. And, I can't post all of them because of the chat length. But, the one thing that actually I found it kind of humorous that for criminal liability, they didn't say practicing law without a license, which is kind of what I was doing, but they didn't list that one. You can get 1 to 8 years to practice law without a license.
Wow.
But this is the Wild West of how do we act civilly and criminally? What can we allow to do, like for compensation you were talking about, in terms of human resource, like in fact, I was talking to a human resource expert who may be on our team, and she was talking about one person did something that went to multiple countries, and she said, and this was something that happened way in the past, but it's like, hey, you're violating, GDPR regulations by doing what you're doing. So, we got to follow procedures, right? And so I think this is going to be something interesting. The other thing is the EU AI Act. That's going to be, they're finalizing that in June. And then, under the Biden administration, there's the NHTSA, which is, the request for comments of 34 questions on how to use generative AI as well. So I really think that policy is going to come quickly to rein in, put these guardrails in place. In fact, President Biden used the word guardrail in his tweet. It would be interesting to ask him, okay, give me a definition of what a guardrail is in generative AI. But, it's going to be interesting to see what the laws are. China came out with they're looking at laws. I just saw Japan doing the same. So a lot of countries are going to be doing regulations and policies around this space very quickly.
Great. All right, let's wrap this up. This has been really, really fascinating, Liz. I would love, and Leah, feel free to pop in as well, but I would love to hear from you. Looking forward, what's the thing you're most excited about? I mean, I thought you gave us great context of sort of where you've come and kind of how all this stuff's going. What's the thing that's standing out for you right now in terms of, I don't know. You say you're an optimist. Where does it feel like it's headed, or where's the thing you're most excited about?
I mean, I'm excited about what I don't know and engaging with that. And I know that sounds really kind of mushy, but I think that there are going to be collaborations that I can't even envision at this point. And that's what I really love. I love exciting collaborations with artists, and to be able to collaborate in new ways is really what lights me up.
That's awesome.
I'll come up with a better answer later, though.
It's a great answer. Leah, any final thoughts for Liz?
I think that what you just said, as I've been on all kinds of photo shoots, and I think that AI is going to allow us to take risks creatively and work in a very unscripted way that feels like its time has come. And I think that the way you just said that we don't even know what we know, to me, is the true creativity, right? It's really when we're most creative. And I'm excited for that. Thank you, Liz. That was really inspiring.
Great. Thank you, Liz, very much. How about a nice, awesome golf clap?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Liz. That was absolutely awesome.
Amazing. So inspiring. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. So what I'd like to do is take the last 25 minutes here, a couple of salon ago, a few salon back.
Why?
Why? I don't know.
I don't know what the salons ago.
A couple of salons ago, we did this thing called AI Confessionals, and I'd like to bring that back. I think it's something that we'd like to make be a permanent part, or at least a semi-permanent part for now. of the salons. And so what I'd like to do is just request, anyone on the call. I think last time we did 5-minute sessions. So Ken, I'm going to call an audible here, and I want to bump the time limit up to 10 minutes. And I'd love for anyone on the call, other than Leah and I, we kind of started out with each of our own today, talking about what we've been doing this week. Jane's got her hand up, so that's great. She's ready to go. She's got some copywriting is coming. But what I'd like to do is just share something that you've done with AI in the past, whatever time frame makes sense, month, week, 2 weeks, a project that you're working on. Drew, you were talking about this MIT course that you're taking. Share a project that you're working on. Share what you're learning, especially share any breakthroughs that you've had, either breakthroughs in understanding or breakthroughs in curiosity or things that have opened something up for you. So if you would raise your hand, we'll turn it over to Ken to be the time master. You don't have to take the full minutes. You can take 3 minutes. But if someone's sharing something interesting and there's some engagement, I want us to have a 10-minute cap for that. So we should be able to get, 3 or 4 of these in. So
can't wait.
Ken, why don't we take it away?
All right, Jane, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I was a little eager. So about a month ago, so I mentioned I'm a copywriter and I use ChatGPT to help me kind of like draft things, come up with concepts and ideas. About a month ago, I actually made a leap as far as the prompts that I was creating and the input that I was putting in, that it just like the output that it had for me just honestly like scared the bejesus out of me, that I had to just like step aside from it and kind of just pretend like it didn't happen. And I think this week I kind of revisited it. And it really made me think about like what is considered writing. Like I've been writing since I was 12 years old. Like I dedicated my life to it. And like there's this kind of idea that like I talk to people who say like, oh, I'm not a good writer because like my grammar is bad. I'm like, well, that's not writing. Like, it's an important part of it, but like you can have really perfect grammar and really shitty writing. Like good writing should be just like engaging and compelling. And I, it's like just even the past 2 months, as far as like how I've used this tool, like it's helped me, do the things that I think are writing, which is like connecting the dots and creating ideas and like driving the conversation forward and not, spinning my wheels or staring into space, which is what I do a lot. And that was like the like I think of the emoji with like the mind explosion, and like that was my day yesterday. Like that was my day all day yesterday. Like once I went back to like, all right, I'm gonna like use this input, use these prompts, and and just embrace it. But it just, and I feel like Liz's talk was really poignant. As far as like helping us be more human. Anyway, it's just I just had to share that.
Can you share what the specific insight was? You said, something was mind blowing for you. Like what was the thing that it generated where you were like, oh, this feels different?
Yeah.
And what about the prompts?
The prompts, yeah. So I write video scripts for a news outlet. So I basically I kind of comb through news and look for just like relevant talking, mostly about like investing in business, things like that. And God, I'm like really scared to share this. I realized that if I just like input a news article, like it'll write the summary for me that I would have written.
Wow.
And and I edit it. I still have to edit it for like factual information, and like plagiarism is like big like on my mind. When I'm working on these things, I try to make them sound like more authentic, and try not to copy the like the journalist too much, but just the fact that all I had to do was just cut and paste, and then it would spit something out that I would have written.
Wow.
Scared the shit out of me. And I discovered this like a month ago and was like, I can't even touch it, and then, but my client's been like scaling up and I've had to keep up with it. And honestly, it saves me brain power. Like I really feel like the time that I would have spent on like grinding through this content, I'm focusing more on how can I create more quality for my client? How can I give them more of what they want? They're trying to make profit, and that's, and that's the thing that I wish I could just like convey to these people, like people who are scared of it and say like, oh, it's not human. Like, actually, no, like I'm more human than I've ever been because like I'm creative. Like I'm like the thing that makes me good at what I do. I'm able to do more of that because this tool takes off some of the kind of the grudge work, if that makes any sense at all.
Makes perfect sense. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm just curious because I do a lot of writing with GPT-3 and whatnot, and I use that as a basis for writing because I don't have any natural writing ability.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering when you're telling it to create, summarize articles, how do you check the plagiarism?
I have to do my own work. So I read the article all the way through and I study the language and I've been doing this long enough so that when I read the summary that ChatGPT spits out, I can kind of tell like, that doesn't sound like
what's there.
That doesn't sound like something ChatGPT would write. That sounds like something that a journalist from the Wall Street Journal would write. And so I'll go back to the article and I'll do a quick search of like a word or a phrase that I think is maybe got pulled directly, and I'll check it. And sometimes I will find like it copied it exactly. So I'll go back. I do a lot of editing. So I kind of cross-reference what did ChatGPT spit out? What did the article say? What can I edit to make it more original? And that was the other thing I think of this week, not to go on so much, but like, people keep saying like, oh, it's going to steal my job. Like, you still need to have a human plugging stuff in. Like, it's not like, there's at the bare minimum, there's a human on the keyboard, like plugging stuff in. So to say that like, it's going to take my job, like, what does that mean? Right. So that was just, and that's kind of, I'm just rambling at this point, but that's to answer your question. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. I guess we will move on to Roger. You're up.
Okay. Calling this a project is perhaps, inflating it a little bit, but a sort of thought experiment I've been chewing on for the last little bit is if I say fine tuning, that's something most people know what that refers to. Just very brief summary. You take these large language models that take like enormous resources to produce, and then for relatively small additional resources, you can sort of tailor them to a specific, typically subject area. So legal stuff or medical or your particular business or whatever. But even that relatively cheaper fine-tuning process in absolute terms is very expensive. It's not something that a small company could possibly, the way they work today, possibly do. So just a little bit of further background here. So all these large language models have a limited size called context buffer, basically the size of the prompt you can put in. And typically, we usually sort of think of the prompt as one thing, but you can really think of it as sort of two things. One is, what does he want the thing to do? And the other is, what is the task-specific background information you want to provide that you don't expect it to just know from its general training? And so, your total context buffer has to fit both of those things. Well, imagine if you had an infinitely large context buffer. then you wouldn't need fine tuning, because you could just put all of your company's website basically in the context buffer as the background and then ask your question. Problem is that doesn't work because it's way bigger than the context buffer. Even like the biggest GPT-4 one is now like about 50,000 words, or something like that, which is a lot, but compared to all the data in IBM, it's pretty small. So what I'm thinking about is you're typically loading things up with human written text, which, as wonderful as humans are, is not the most efficient way to communicate. And what you really want to do is tell the LLM the information in the language as close to what it wants to hear as possible, so that you can get as much capacity there as possible. And fortunately, large language models can help you with this problem. So what I'm thinking about is, can you use a large language model to digest the stuff you'd like to put into your prompt, in the context buffer, down to something much, much smaller, so that you effectively multiply the size of an input buffer, which means you can solve problems that require a lot more context without having to do fine tuning. You can just take something like ChatGPT, probably GPT-4 based, so you have this start off with a fairly big buffer, and then multiply that buffer size for some, I have no idea how big a number. I'm confident it's much bigger than 1. It's obviously much less than infinity. It's somewhere in the middle there. But you take a chunk of your much larger input, you boil it down to something smaller, you put that in as sort of the context for the next chunk, you run it again, produce another digested chunk, and repeat this process and work your way through. There's some fairly important details here that I haven't worked out how to make this whole thing work. But I think the general idea of being able to use an LLM to help you build this sort of super prompt that would let you do the equivalent of fine tuning without having to have the resources available to do fine tuning. Basically, anyone can do this on their laptop. I think is a really interesting possibility, and would greatly expand the set of people, small people, smaller resource entities that could do the kind of stuff that the big guys are doing with fine tuning today.
And I think just to kind of piggyback off of that, you can reverse that as well. Instead of taking lots and lots of data and fine tuning it down, you can take small amounts of data and have it expand into something that it can understand more, to kind of get what you're looking for, I would suppose.
But it's interesting.
Roger, take a look in the chat. I just put something there. A paper dropped today where the research just came out. They figured out how to get a 2 million token context in that paper. So check out that paper. And also, if you don't follow David Shapiro on YouTube, you should. He's working on this. He's an AI researcher. He does really good. YouTube videos on the stuff he's working on, and exactly what you describe is something that he's working on right now. So there's some stuff coming, but David Shapiro might be an interesting guy for you to check out.
I think that's a really good comment, because one of the things that as we kind of adapt to these tools that's going to emerge is people who are really good at communicating, writing prompts and communicating with AI. It's I'm finding that like you said, fine tuning, I'll write something and it doesn't say, it doesn't comprehend it. It doesn't interpret it the way that I thought it was. And so I have to go back and kind of be oh, okay, so maybe I just use different language, and the people who are just going to be superstars at this are the ones who figure out, who know how to do that, know how to communicate with it.
So hopefully we get away from the need for every human using AI to need to do that, and use the AI itself to do that.
I think the universe will implode at that point. It's just a little too. It's very meta.
It is very meta, but we're getting into a tighter and tighter meta circle here every day.
But also, you have to realize when you get into a larger company who's trying to do what you're talking about, they're not using ChatGPT. They're using their own AIs that are built similar to ChatGPT, but it doesn't have token limitations. ChatGPT has the token limitations because we're all using it.
Well, that's what Samsung
all
was
LLMs
using.
have token limitations. It's
Right.
fundamental to the architecture.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is they're not going to be used a much smaller one. It'll be a lot easier for those. Whereas like for the little guys, if we've got a smaller type business that's heavy on things that would need to be in an LLM or PDFs or that kind of thing, yeah, it definitely would have to be. But yeah, I'm interested in that article that Kyle just shared. So yeah, that should be fun.
But an interesting experiment to do is just take any arbitrary 1,000 word or a few hundred word document and dump it into ChatGPT and ask it to restate it as a prompt.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
very
great.
interesting to see
Yeah.
what it thinks matters versus what we think matters.
Yeah.
And
Reverse
the way
engineering is
it
very fast.
talks, the way it uses language, is it basically strips all the crap out and boils it down to all the stuff that only matters to it as a prompt.
Yeah.
And it's quite instructive to see how that differs from the way people normally write for human consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, great. Let's if we can, let's move on so we get one more in before we wrap things up.
Yep, Sky, you're up.
I will be brief. So as I mentioned before, I'm currently looking for a job, right? So I've been a director of UX research and product design for 10 years now. So there's not a lot that comes at me in these job posts that I haven't done, that I don't have examples of. So that is just a disclaimer for what is to follow. I have had an interesting insight, not into AI, but into us humans.
No.
So I started writing cover letters by going to the job post. I sort of read it over, then I'd be like, yeah, I can do all that. And then I prompt it, copy it in, and I prompt it with, please give me, the top 8 skills just so I can have them. And then write a cover letter of the job post below, pointing out how good I am at all these skills. Right now, I'm not lying. I do have all these skills, but man, that cover letter just had the way it groups things. Oh, I've been doing this and that and the other. So there's no lies going on there. But as I was having it write these, I realized it does a great job. I mean, I've hired many people. If I got a cover letter like this, I'd be like, wow, this person really read what I had to say. They're really using a businessy type language. And I realized, oh my God, we are completely inhuman in these hiring processes. We are stuffy. We say, I am, not I'm, right? We have these ideas of what it means to be businessy and serious and how we write these damn letters. Friends, I am telling you, I am disgusted with us as humans. It's not the AI. It's us and what's happening. Anyway, completely inhuman, incredibly appropriate, and really well done for the kind of bullshit that you got to just lay down thick when this is happening. So that is my insight for you today, friends.
I think it's such an interesting insight, Sky, because you are so animated and so interesting to hear talk. So I feel like something is lost in that cover letter.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When I write businessy, I'm as boring as all get out. Oh, blech. Just hire me already. God.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. Doug?
Yeah, so I'm working on a project on healthcare. So right now, 50% of people don't follow their treatment plans. And so what I did is working with a project instead of texting, because right now a lot of, healthcare systems, they look at patients' issues and they say, okay, here, we're going to send you a text. Well, the problem, especially for young people, is they're into videos now, very short videos. So I'm working on a project, and it looks like I may be able to work with a pediatric who's focusing on diabetes. And the idea would be is to put in help a nurse take a treatment plan, say to ChatGPT, okay, generate this into a language like for a 15-year-old a girl who has diabetes to make it interesting. make it funny, and then you put it into Synthesia, and then put it into the like a younger person, in the gender, in the ethnic group that they're maybe that relates to, or maybe in the future you could do it to a sports figure that someone's into sports, or whatever avatar that they would be into, and then you would send it to the patient to encourage compliance to healthcare. So right now, 125,000 people die every year because they don't follow their treatment plan. It costs the U.S. between $100 billion and $300 billion. So the idea would be is to create, use generative AI to take the treatment plan, generate it into language that would be most interesting to the patient, and then would create a video that'd be most interesting to the patient so that they would follow their treatment plan. So that's the idea.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah,
Really,
so hopefully we'll get this kicked off and see where this goes.
Yeah, and I mean, what's amazing about that is the tech is there right now to have it actually be pretty good, and within 6 months or a year, it's going to be brilliant. So
yeah, I mean, the challenges we have is HIPAA, so we got to figure that part out. You have to have a nurse in the loop. In fact, I'm giving some training classes to healthcare professionals on Friday how to use generative AI tools. And the key thing is you have to be your own fact checker. So when things get generated, just like Sky, when you generated the information, you got to fact check to make sure, am I putting anything into your document that's factually incorrect? And especially if you're doing this for a medical treatment plan, you got to, make sure that you're not doing anything incorrect. So, it's about fact checking. But if you can get to 99% of the information being correct, and then only a few tweaks to verify, that can, be very useful, I believe.
Now, who provides this characterization? Who provides this characterization of the patient that's used to tailor it?
Who provides the what?
The characterization of the patient that you're tailoring to.
Well, we would like for instance, I said, as the example, like here's a 15-year-old teenage girl. So I you can come up with whatever state you want, and you can ask ChatGPT, okay, here's this person, this patient's persona, and then write it to make that interesting to that patient.
Right, let's see if we can get one more. CJ, you got a couple minutes.
Oh, no pressure. Okay. So this is kind of what the Sky was kind of talking about, the humanist. My project is humanity right now when it comes to AI. I started on computers years and years ago. My dad forced me onto one, and it just became my love. I moved out of that to a whole different career path where I was a storyteller on stage, camera, script writer, all that, connecting the human side of the world and having people kind of intersect each other. And then when I moved to design, I really missed the idea of people connecting. And so what I've been doing for a while now, especially with the advent of AI and imagery, is trying to find a way to where I can still have people connect from one human to another human. You said something really earlier that, we are the ones that we put in the prompts. We have this creative thing in our head that we throw into a dumb computer, as my old teacher would call it, the stupid computer, and it helps us generate the things that are in our heads. And so what I've been trying to do, especially with the community that I work with and that I serve, which is the developmental disabled community, is really trying to find a way to have humans look at an image and see themselves in the image, and have that image not just be real, but actually have there be some sort of actual humanity soul that's based into. When I take photography and when I take pictures, I can walk around, I can capture someone's essence, capture someone's spirit. And I want to try to find a way of having these stupid computers do that same thing for other people. And so that where one person can explain what an image is to another person, and they can instantly connect on what that is. And there's a part of them together that will bond over what that is. So with as much fun as I have, like, hey, let me make some Star Wars images and some space people, teddy bears floating in the air. the challenge has been to find and create that imagery where it sparks a conversation. And they actually will sit down and go, this is what I see and I think, and this is what I see and I think, and it pushes them into a deeper conversation. So
Wow.
that's where I'm at with AI. That's my gigantic macro level project is what I'm trying to do.
I love it. I think it's a great one to end on. Congratulations on that. I think it's a huge vision. And again, I think these tools, you know, have us a lot closer to that vision than we could have imagined even 6 months ago. So kudos. So
Yeah. I'm excited to see that come together, CJ.
yeah. So thank you to everyone who shared your AI confessionals. You know, the value of generosity is a big part of this. And so thank you for doing that. So Leah, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Another artist salon.
Another salon in the books.
That's right.
Yeah, very, very, very exciting. Thank you, everybody. Liz, thank you. I see you're still here. Thank you so much for putting in the work and a really inspiring talk. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Spread the word as always. Let's get more people here. You folks in Denver don't have too much fun without me because it will get better.
We will.
All right, everybody. Thank you all.
Have a great night.
Bye.